ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुराः सुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः. We have now started the 16th chapter, which is called as Daivi Sampatti, Asuri Sampatti, Daivasuri Sampatti. And Bhagwan said that Daivi Sampatti these are a set of values which have to be imbibed by every mumukshu for the maturity of one's mind, so that all that is heard through the Shastra, by Guru Mukhena Shastra Shravanam that is done, that knowledge has to really catch on. It should be held, and that can happen only in a mature mind. And it is these values which are called as the Daivi Sampatti, which are going to really make one's mind mature enough and strong enough for this knowledge to actually take roots into one's intellect. And the first three verses of this chapter, starting from Abhayam Sattvasam Shuddhi up till Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata, the third verse. First, second, and third verses talked about Daivi Sampatti, and in quite a detail I spoke about them in the last session, and they have been given much more in detail in the 13th chapter, the 7th, 8th, and 9th verses, where Bhagwan calls them Jnanam. Jnanam means that which is the instrument of knowledge, that by which the sadhana, following them as the sadhana, that is acquiring these Daivi Sampatti, is considered to be a sadhana for preparing the mind for ultimately this knowledge. Now Bhagwan wants to say, contrary to this Daivi Sampatti, there are certain attributes, there are certain attitudes, there are certain gunas. Ultimately, we are all the human beings and all the jivas are a combination of the three gunas. And when the rajasic and tamasic gunas are overpowering the sattvika guna, the attitude of the mind or the thought process of that person is called as the asuri sampatti. Now, sampatti does not mean that it is a wealth. It's actually not a wealth at all. Asuri sampatti is that which can really push down a person down the ladder of spiritual growth. It can make this person come back again and again into the cycles of birth and death in lower yonis or in lower janmas. and it is a great spiritual fall. And this entire chapter from the fourth verse onwards, now Bhagavan dedicates to what an Asuri Sampatti is. What is this attitude of Asuri nature, that which really pushes down a person from the spiritual upliftment or from his spiritual growth towards moksha. If moksha is my purushartha, if that is my nishchaya, that ultimately what I want, my goal in this life is ultimately moksha, moksha purushartha, then I should be careful that I have more of Daivi Sampatti than Asuri Sampatti. And here, Asuri Sampat or those Rajasic, Tamasic associated attitudes and the gunas of a human being are described. The fourth verse is only going to give a brief introduction, just mention what they are. And from the next verses onwards, the entire chapter, till the end of the chapter, Bhagwan wants to talk about what this Asuri Sampatti can do to a human being. How can a human being really be, pushed down into the dumps, and where a spiritual upliftment may not be possible at all for such a person, and that kind of an attitude of a person, and how a person thinks with Asuri Sampatti, how it can be detrimental to his spiritual growth, that is talked about from the seventh verse onward. So let's see the fourth verse. Bhagwan says here, Dambho darpotimanascha krodhah parushyameva cha अज्ञानं चाभिजातस्य पार्थः सम्पदमासुरीम्. So, hey Partha, I will just enumerate some of the important Asuri Sampattis. What is this Aspati Sampadam Asurim? This Asuri Sampatti, or that which is possessed by this person who is Raja Tamo Guna Pradhana. What are these? These are merely listed here, not given in detail. So, what does he say here? Dambhaha, the first word. What is Dambhaha? Ostentatiousness, show off, garva, with garva, showing off something, one's power maybe, one's money, okay, what I have acquired, what I know. Even I can show off my knowledge also. A scholar can show off his knowledge also. So, whatever he has acquired, a tendency to show off either with his body language or the way he dresses, the way he presents himself, the way he talks, that expression of garva is what is called as dambhaha. Dambhaha means a typical showing off of one's whatever one possesses. He wants to make it public. He wants everybody to know what he is, his power of whatever he has or whatever he owns. That is called as dambhaha. Darpaha. Darpaha means here actually, ahankaraha, arrogance. A person who has something, maybe a very powerful person, powerful by either money or political power or whatever it is, and such a person is arrogant. His very behavior towards other people, with people who do not have that kind of a power that he has, any kind of a power it may be, that arrogance of what he has is called as darpaha. And how does he express that darpaha? He expresses it in the form of dambha. The way he talks, the way he behaves, the way he walks, his body language, entire thing shows his ahankara or his arrogance of what he has, to make it very clear to the other person, look, you don't have it and I have it. And making an other person feel very small about what he or she doesn't have. That is what is called as darpaha. Then there is atimanascha. Atimana means manitvam. We have already seen that in the 13th chapter. Here also we saw amanitvam as a Daivi sampat. Whereas manitvam, atmani pujyatva bhavana, that I am a very great person because I am a scholar. I have so many degrees following my name. I have so many things. Therefore, others should respect me. Demanding, commanding, demanding respect from others. People should address me like this. They should call me like this. They should stand up when I come. They should fall at my feet. They should address me with respect. I deserve this. This demanding of respect from others, thinking oneself to be having that, I have that mana, I have that manitvam, because of which others have to give me respect and treat me like this. This kind of a demand, this is what is called as atimanitvam or atimanasya. Then krodaha, we know, anger. Anger is necessary. It's not something that it is always an asuri sampat. Sometimes anger is necessary to make somebody understand, that a person is going wrong. A guru may get angry. Bhagwan Krishna in the Mahabharata war got angry. Bhagwan Krishna also out of anger has actually given a shapa to Ashwatthama. So anger by itself is not bad. But what is it that is making anger an asuri sampat? That anger which is inappropriate to the stimulus, that anger which is inappropriate in the place and time and the person against whom it is directed. Any kind of a krodha which results in a physical abuse or a verbal abuse or even a mental or abuse in thought inappropriately, which can harm the other person, which can cause himsa to the other person, and in the meanwhile, which causes himsa to himself. Do you think krodha is only going to harm another person? Krodha is going to harm the individual who has this krodha much more than it can harm the recipient of krodha. So here krodha here means inappropriate anger which can be a himsa to another person, either in the form of verbal abuse or in the form of any physical abuse, and when it is most of the time not needed at all. Even if it is necessary, that which is disproportionate, that which is not proportionate to what is the very stimulus for which it is needed. A common simple irritation can lead to a krodha which can hurt another person. So this kind of a krodha is also asuri sampat. Then parushyam, it's a very very important thing. Parushyam means what? Sarcasm about, you know the physical and the emotional or mental limitations of other people. Commenting upon other people either directly or indirectly, and making fun or being sarcastic about the weaknesses of other people. A person may do it directly in front of that person, or it may be done in the form of paishunam or in the form of gossip about other people. That you put down a person and be sarcastic, like, a person who's probably, one eyed, or say a person who's a kana, a person who's a squint, you say, oh, that fellow with his beautiful eyes, like this sarcasm about the weaknesses and limitations of other people, that is called as parushyam. And then he says ajnanam. Ajnanam here does not mean ignorance of Atma. No. Here Ajnanam means, the Ajnanam about Dharma and Adharma. What is Dharma? What is Adharma? What is to be done? What is not to be done? What is appropriate? What is inappropriate? What is to be said? What is not to be said? That inappropriateness and not knowing the difference between Dharma and Adharma, not knowing the difference between what is to be done and what is not to be done, that is what is called as ajnanam here in this particular context. And Bhagwan says that abhijatasya, in whom these asuri sampattis are there, such people are called as people with asuri sampat. Now in the next verse he says, why should one be worried about Daivi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti? So, in the fifth verse of the 16th chapter, Bhagwan says, Daivi Sampat Vimokshaya Nibandhaya Surimata Mashucha Sampadam Daivim Abhijatosi Pandava. Daivi Sampat Vimokshaya. Arjuna, if you are a mumukshu, if your ultimate goal or purushartha in this life is moksha, vimokshaya, for that goal, it is very necessary to have Daivi Sampat. Even though you may be a mixture, in the next verse, Bhagwan says, every human being is born with a mixture of Daivi Asuri Sampat. But then a human being is not helpless. It is possible for a human being to work towards lessening the Asuri Sampat and strengthening the Daivi Sampat. And he says, strengthening the Daivi Sampat is Vimokshaya. Daivi Sampat Vimokshaya Nibandhaya Asuri Mata. Asuri Sampat binds a person. How does it bind? It binds a person by throwing him down, him or her down the spiritual, growth. Once spiritual growth gets stagnated, or he may even come down, and these Asuri Sampat bind such a person and may not allow the maturity of the mind to actually expose one's intellect to this knowledge. An Asuri Sampat person may not even feel or feel the necessity or the need for this knowledge at all, and that can cause a great spiritual stagnation of the spiritual growth of a person. Therefore, nibandhaya, asuri sampatti is a bondage, whereas daivi sampat is that which can be a sadhana towards moksha. Then mashucha sampada daiveen abhijatosi pandava. Hey Pandava, I want you to know, don't be desperate by what I am listing as Daivi Asuri Sampati. May you know, Arjuna, that you are of Daivi, you have more of Daivi Sampati. Ma Shucha, don't worry. Sampadam Daivim Abhijatosi. You have all those Daivi Sampati, which is necessary for you to really understand what I am telling you in the form of this Atmajnanam. Yes, Arjuna was definitely he had the Daivi Sampati. He had the Sattvika predisposition of the mind, even in a situation, in the warlike situation, to understand his helplessness, to understand that this kind of a moha that I'm having, this kind of a, sorrow that I'm having, I should get out of it. And he surrendered to Krishna, which is itself the greatest Daivi Sampat, surrendering to the Lord, taking Krishna as his guru. And Arjuna was willing to listen to what Krishna was to say. He asked the appropriate questions, the pariprashnas that were necessary. Arjuna did not argue with Krishna saying that, no, what you're saying is wrong. Or he said, yes, I do not know. He even said once, it looks as though you're confusing me. Mohayasi iva, hey Krishna, in the third chapter. But I don't know what I should do. Should I follow Karma Yoga? Should I follow Jnana Yoga? Should I take up to a lifestyle of sannyasa? Should I take up to the lifestyle of a mumukshu? What should I do? I do not know. He accepted that he was not aware of what is to be done. He accepted his helplessness. He listened to Lord Krishna. He had that kripa or daya or compassion. He felt that in my, this very decision of fighting the war, it may cause so much of problems to the whole society around me. So much of destruction, so much of killing. Is it really worth it? Who will think of such a thing? It's only a person with Daivi Sampati. It's not that Pandavas wanted to wage a war. It was not Pandavas' decision to, the Pandavas' decision to wage a war. They were cornered into it, they were forced into it. It is not that they were waiting, to fight a war. No, they tried their best. Krishna tried his best to stop this war. But the Kauravas, including Dhritarashtra, including Bhishma, they were extremely keen on this war. Literally, they were pushed to it. When you are pushed to the wall and when you have to defend yourself, you have to be offensive. And this war, which was fought as a Dharma Yuddha, was not fought out of a desire for fighting by the Pandavas. Arjuna was never keen on fighting this war. It was because he was forced into it, cornered into it, pushed into it to fight this war. And even then, when he was in the war field also, he was not fully convinced. But it was Krishna who said that, look, this is not what you wanted, but you have been forced to do it, and as your Swadharma, you have to do it. All these things show that Arjuna was a person of predominantly Daivi Sampatti. So, here It is not merely to encourage Arjuna, but Krishna is here telling the truth to Arjuna. Arjuna, you are predominantly of a Daivi Sampatti. And that is why you are able to understand what I am telling you. That is why I am able to come to almost the 16th chapter, which is almost 80% of Bhagavad Gita is over here. And Ma Shucha, don't worry, Arjuna, you have that Daivi Sampatti. You are a Mumukshu. You are a Shishya and you are eligible for this Atmagnana. Therefore, I am giving you this Jnanam. That is why in many places Bhagwan Krishna calls Arjuna Anagha, Hey Anagha, Hey Paparahita, Hey Arjuna who's of a sattvic orientation, sattvikally oriented buddhi. You are fit of this knowledge. You are a Daivim Abhijatosi. Daivi Sampatti you have Arjuna. You are fit for this knowledge. And then in the sixth verse, Bhagwan says, द्वौ भूतसर्गौ लोकेऽस्मिन् दैव आसुर एव च दैवो विस्तरशः प्रोक्तः आसुरं पार्थ मे शृणु. Hey Partha, everybody, every jiva. Now we are talking about a human being because this knowledge is meant for a human being. So Krishna says every human being is a combination of Devi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti. Why? Because we are the products of the three gunas. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, these three gunas, we are all the products of these three gunas. Being the products of these three gunas, we are mixtures of Devi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti. There may be a predominance of Devi Sampatti, there may be a predominance of Rakshasi or Asuri Sampatti, but however, no human being is 100% a Devi Sampatti oriented, nor is a human being 100% Asuri Sampat oriented. Even a very, very Asuri or Rakshasi Sampat person also may occasionally have some kind of a Karuna, some kind of compassion or daya, which we have seen in many stories. We have seen, even when we analyze the characters of Mahabharata, we see that even those people who were considered to be the most Asuri Sampat people also, take maybe Duryodhana or Shakuni or Dhritarashtra, anybody, even Dronacharya you take. There were some qualities, sometime, somewhere, some kind of, a Daivi Sampat, just, like a spark, it shone somewhere. Therefore, no human being is 100% Daivi or Asuri Sampat oriented. So what he says is, Dvau Bhuta Sargau. At the time of creation of an individual jiva, Loke asmin, in this loka, Daivi and Asuri Sampat are both there together. In animals, they are all programmed. There is no question of Asuri Sampat because there is no question of free will in an animal or in a plant. There are certain animals like cows, maybe, which are more Sattva Pradhana out of them. There may be more Rajo Pradhana animals. There may be more Tamo Pradhana animals like buffaloes, etc. That is all programmed. Here in animals, we don't call them Daivi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti. They are mere the predominance of gunas which are programmed by Ishvara. Whereas here in human beings, when we are created, because of our previous papa punyas, because of the orientation of the three gunas, every individual is a mixture of Devi Sampatti and Asuri Sampatti. And Krishna says, look, you as a human being, you have a free will. You, if you can understand that, look, I am more of a Asuri Sampat Pradhana individual. This is not good for me. Either told by the Shastra or told by the Guru or using my own Swataha Buddhi, I may be able to understand because I'm capable of abstract thinking as a human being. Are yes, I'm having more of these Asuri Sampat. I think it is high time that I am aware of these things and try to bring them down and inculcate more of Daivi Sampati possible in a human being. Either by Shastra I can be converted or by the Guru I can be converted, in the sense I can, be aware that whenever I have more of Asuri Sampati, or that I am more of Rajotamo Guna Pradhana, There are more of Asuri Sampatti in me. It is not good for me. Even Laukika wise, it's not good for me. I can't be a good family person. I can't be a good friend to anybody. Nobody will probably like me because of this. People may be scared of me. They may be scared of talking to me. No, I should not be. I should, improve. I should get out of this Asuri Sampat. So it is possible for a human being to understand his very disposition, his or her disposition. And if it is purely or if it is predominantly Asuri, then out of my free will, with the help of Shastra, with the help of Guru, with the help of elders, what is called as Vradha Vyavahara, it is possible for me to reduce my Asuri Sampat and then increase my Devi Sampat. That is the reason why Bhagavan Krishna is spending almost 2.5 chapters, even in the next chapter, is going to talk about this on Devi and Asuri Sampat, on, values, positive values that are going to be conducive for moksha in a mumukshu, and the negative or asuri values which are non conducive for moksha, that is talked about in detail in almost something like 50 to 60 verses of these two chapters. Why? Because as a human being, I have the free will to adjust, to see that I reduce my Asuri Sampatti and increase my Daivi Sampat. So he says, Daivaha Vistarashaha Proktaha. The first three verses of this chapter, and in the 13th chapter, in the 7 to 9 verses, Vistarashaha, Vistarena. In detail, I have talked about the Daivi Sampattis, whereas Shrunu me Partha Asuram. Now onwards, from the 7th verse onwards, hey Arjuna, listen to me. I am going to elaborate on the Asuri Sampat. I have already given you a hint and a list in the 4th verse in the form of Dambaha, Darpaha, Atimanischa, Krodha. He's going to bring about Lobha, Moha, everything later. But then from the 7th verse onward, Bhagwan wants to talk about what kind of a pravritti this person has got, what kind of a disposition a person with Rakshasi and Asuri Sampat, a person has, what kind of a disposition of the mind this person has. That is going to be detailed in the 7th verse. And we'll have to benchmark ourselves here. You see, nobody can tell us, you have Asuri Sampat. No, we have to benchmark. We have to see where is it that, where is our disposition? What is it that we are lacking in Devi Sampati? Which is that strong Asuri Sampati, which is actually a block to me, which is a block which is blocking me from, my spiritual growth. What is that block? Which is that stumbling block that I have to literally look at myself? I have to judge myself, I have to look into myself and see where I stand. That is why Bhagwan is spending so much time on explaining these things. In the 7th verse, Bhagwan says, Pravritim cha nivrittim cha जना न विदुरासुराः न शौचं नापि चाचारः न satyam teshu vidyate. These Asuri Sampat people, Arjuna, they have this kind of a disposition of mind. What is this? Pravrittincha nivrittincha na viduhu asuraha janaha. Pravritti, what is to be done, how it should be done, in what context it should be done, in what pramana it should be done, they do not know. Nivrittimcha, what should not be done, what is wrong action, what I should refrain from, they do not know. In other words, what is dharma, what is adharma, what is to be done, what is not to be done, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, what can hurt another person, what can, help another person. Pravrittim na jane, na, the one who does not know, na viduhu asuraha. These Asuri Sampat people have no idea of what pravritti or what actions, how they should go about nivrittincha, what they should avoid, from what they should come away. They have no idea about it. Na shaucham. There is no cleanliness in thought. Bahya shaucham is not there. Antara shaucham is not there. There may be a lot of grandeur around me. That is not shaucham. But that inner shaucham of compassion, inner shaucham of clean thinking, not all the time planning, how can I put down that person? How can I benefit most from this? How I can see that I'm the only one benefited and the others are not? How can I be smart enough, slimy enough, to always, get what I want? Doesn't matter even if it means hurting another person. So this antaha shauchaha is not there. Na shaucham. A clean thought, a thought, a thinking which is clean is not there. Na shaucham. Na picha acharaha. How to conduct oneself in society. Achara is not there. Achara means what? How should I conduct in such a way that I don't become a nuisance to others? But these Daivi Sampatti, Asuri Sampatti persons, their achara itself is what? Dambaha, Atimanaha, Darpaha, Himsa, Anritam. So, what it is achara is not known. They don't even learn from Vriddha Vyavahara or Shishtachara. Shishtachara means good achara, good behavior, good conduct, what we call Sheelam, good conduct. It is not there. Na achara. They don't feel the need for it. What does it matter? I'll behave the way I want. What does it matter? It doesn't matter. I'll abuse anybody the way I want. I'll do anything I want. It doesn't matter. I am not bothered. I don't care. These are the things, words which we hear very often. I don't care. I don't care. This is what I want. This is what I feel. I don't care. So this is what is called as acharaha na satyam. There is no value for the truth. There's no value for those, values which are really holding the society together. No value for dharma, no value for satyam, no value for speaking the truth, no value. Doesn't matter. I can use any number of white lies, gray lies, brown lies, any colored lie, that's okay, as long as my purpose is served. What is satyam? What does it matter? Pure materialistic. They're called as the Charvakas, materialistic. Yavat jivet sukham jivet rinam kritva ghritam pibet. As long as you're alive, this body is the only body you have. This life is the only life you have. There is nothing other than that. Even if I steal from somebody, doesn't matter. I should live a happy life. I don't care about what happens to others. These are what are who are called as the materialists or the charvakas. So na satyam teshu vidyate. There's no question of any kind of a value in the form of satyam. There's nothing called as the truth for them. Everything is just random. And in the next verse, very, very, it's very important to know this verse. And what else is their way of their thought process? Krishna says, Asatyam apratishtham te jagadahuranishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kimanyat kama hetukam. So he says that there's nothing called as truth. There is nothing which holds this jagat together. And whatever is there is only asatyam apratishtham. This whole world that is existing here is a mere random occurrence, a random appearance. There is no rhyme or reason for it. There is no system in it. There is no question of any kind of a karana, karya in it. No question of karma, no question of, karma theory, nothing like that. No papa, no punya, nothing like that. It is asat. In the first place, there is no truth in it. There is nothing worth knowing in it. It is apratishtam. It has no pratishtha. It has no support. Dharma is no support for that at all. It is a mere random appearance. There are some people called as Paramanu theory, these Vaisheshikas. They say nothing, the atoms come together, created the world. Whenever the atoms, that's their power or their Shakti is over, they just go away from each other and there is no more Jagat. There is no other Pratishta. These Anuvadis or Paramanuvadis. So there is no pratishtha, no support. There is nothing which holds this Jagat together. And Jagat ahuhu anishwaram. There is no Ishvara. There is no intelligence. There are no laws. There is no higher intelligence. There is no God. There is nothing. This whole universe is apratishtham. It is supportless. It is anchorless. It is a random universe by just some atoms, molecules coming together randomly, creating something and then disappearing. Nothing is there. Nothing other. There's nothing. So one does not have to bother about papa, punya, one's action, nothing at all. Even this body has come accidentally. How has it come? Aparaspara sambhutam. All the jivas are merely born by the coming together of the male and female. That's all. There is no other pratishtha here. Aparaspara sambhutam. Okay, aparaspara sambhutam means the male and female principles coming together. Kim anyat kama hetukam, out of kama, out of passion, out of desire, out of sensuousness, male and female principles coming together is the only reason for this Jagat and the Jivas to be there. Nothing else. It is a random universe. It is chaos. There is no order. This is a chaotic universe. There is no order. There are no laws. There is no Ishvara. There is no Pratishta. There is no Satyam. Nothing is there. You are there today. You want something. You want to be happy. Be happy. At the cost of others' happiness, it doesn't matter. Others' happiness, others' dukkha doesn't matter at all. What matters is that this body, this I am this body only. This should be happy. This should be kept happy. Yavat jivet sukham jivet. And then get out. No question of coming back. No karma theory. No rebirth. Nothing like that. Just enjoy as long as you are here and get out. Aparaspara sambhutam kim anyat kama haitukam. It is only kama haitukam, this entire universe. So this is the thought process of an person with a predominant Asuri Sampati. That is why, how can such a person have any kind of an interest in moksha? A person has no interest in dharma itself. He doesn't even accept dharma. Artha and kama are his only thought process. There is only artha kama. Such a person, where is the question of dharma and moksha? So, can you see how Asuri Sampatti is binding and how it can be detrimental to the spiritual growth of any person? There's no question of any kind of a spirituality, no question of religiousness, nothing, nothing, nothing at all. So, this is the way a person with Asuri Sampat thinks. Then he says in the next verse, in the ninth verse, same, he continues, Krishna continues, how a Asuri Sampat, Rakshasi Sampat person thinks. Yetam drishtim avashtabhya nashtatmanolpabuddhayaha prabhavantyugrakarmanaha kshayaya jagato hitaha. Such people are who? Jagataha ahitaha. Last word. Jagato hitaha here means Jagataha ahitaha. They are ahitas. They are actually not meant for hita. They only are wanting ahita, or they want the destruction or dukkha for the jagat. They don't want any kind of good for the people or for the universe around them. They are people who are mostly desiring the ahita, and they themselves are ahita for this universe. Jagataha ahitaha kshayaya. Okay. Prabhavanti ugra karmanaha. Ugra karmanaha. They are willing to do anything. Ugra karmas. What are ugra karmas? Karmas which harm others. Himsa. In any form. Sharirika, kayika, vachika, manasika, ugra karmas. Just to hurt others, to put people away from their, anybody who comes in the way of their fulfilling their materialistic desires, himsa, and get rid of them. Himsa, get rid of them. I want means I want. This is what I want, and this I will do anything to get rid of anybody. So, prabhavanti, they get into what? Ugra karmanaha. Ugra karmana, all that they are thinking of is the karmas which are either rajasic or tamasic, and kshayaya jagataha ahitaha. They only give rise to ahita, or the negative things in the jagat that is happening, whatever it is, violence, anger, so many things that we see happening around. This is all by people of Asuri Sampatti. They may have various names for that. They may give various reasons for that. Whatever we see today are nothing but that Asuri Sampat Jagataha Kshayaya Jagataha Ahitaha. They are the Ahitas for the destruction of the entire universe. Bhai Yetam Drishtim Avashtabhya Nashta Atmano Alpa Buddhayaha. These are Alpa Buddhis. Alpa Buddhis means they are people who have no understanding of what a human birth is meant for. Such Alpa Buddhayaha Nashtatmanaha. They have destroyed themselves and they're destroying themselves. They don't even know that. They destroy themselves, they destroy their families, they destroy the surroundings, they destroy the environment, they destroy the entire universe. Nashtatmanaha yetam drishtim avashtabhya. This drishti, which drishti? The idea of what we saw in the eighth verse. There is no pratishta, there is no dharma, there is no Ishvara. Just the karma of the male and female have brought these things together. Some paramanus or some non living atoms and molecules have come together and formed this entire chaotic universe. There is no question of any order here. All apratishta and asatyam only, nothing else. Such a drishti, such an idea of this Rakshasi Asuri Sampat person. He is a Nashtatma. He has destroyed himself. He is Jagata Ahitaha. Such a person, such people are Ahitaha. They're not conducive to the health of the entire universe, for the good health of the entire community. They are for for the destruction of their surroundings, and they only engage themselves in Rajasic, Tamasic, and Ugra karmas. And what are their Ugra karmas backed by? That is told in the 10th verse. काममाश्रित्य दुष्पूरं दम्भमानमदान्विताः मोहाद् गृहीत्वा सदग्राहान् प्रवर्तन्ते शुचिव्रताः. So here he says, what is it that propels them into these asuric actions? Kamam ashritya dushpuram. Dushpuram kamam ashritya. Their desires never end. Dushpuram. If you really look at ourselves, we may have 10, bucket list, we say. We'll have 10 items in our bucket list. By the time the first item in our bucket list is fulfilled and I leave a sigh of relief, I have fulfilled this. From those 10 in my bucket list has grown, the list has grown to 100. Because by the time I fulfill one desire, another 10 are added. Therefore, for anybody, desires are dushpuram. Okay, he says dushpuram kamam ashritya. Desires can never be fulfilled because the desires are not limited. They are one after another, one after another. We keep on adding, adding, adding. I wish I had this, I wish I had this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Maybe people like us who have little bit of more of Devi Sampatti, we only wish and keep quiet. We may even pray to God, oh God, let me please fulfill this desire. But no, these Asuri Sampat people, what do they do? Dushpuram kamam ashritya. Desires which can never be fulfilled, either in numbers or in the quality of the desire itself. What do they do? Dambha manam madanvitaha. With their dambha, ostentatiousness, manitvam, and mada, that arrogance, they say, I can fulfill any desire I want. I am so powerful, I can do what I want. This is my desire, I am going to fulfill it. It is possible for me to fulfill. What does it require? It requires me to get rid of anybody who comes in my way, whoever it may be. It doesn't matter anyway. That is how I live, because there is no order. What I say is order. Okay, therefore, he says, Mohat grihitva asadgrahan. Asadgrahan grihitva. Mohat. Out of this delusion, out of this confusion, out of this kind of manitvam and mada and darpa, they hold on to asat grahyam. Asat grahyam means kamas which can never be fulfilled. Asat, that which is not there at all. Many of these people, they have very, very high ambitions. I want to attain this, I want to do this, I have done this, I have done that, I have done to do. Most of the time, they're asat grahan. That which is really not, that's not going to give me anything, asat grahan. Holding on to those vishayas, holding on to those desires which are unfulfillable, either in their numbers or in their quality or in their extent to which they hold on to that asad grahan. Asad means that which really is not there at all. To these asad vishayas, to this mithya prapancha, to this idea, mithya idea they hold on to. And what do they say? Pravartante ashuchi vrataha. They go about with ashuchi vrata. It becomes a vrata for them. It becomes a vrata, and they said, I am going to do this. Pratignyas. They make pratignyas. I will do this. In Mahabharata, we see so many characters. Most of the pratignyas are meant for harming others. Most of the pratignyas are meant for killing somebody else. Okay, not for dharma. Whether Ashwatham, I mean, whether it is a pratignya of Dronacharya, or whether it's a pratignya of, our, of anybody, Drishtadyumna, anybody for that matter. What are their pratignyas? The pratignyas are not meant for the hita of this, of the Jagat. They are not even meant for dharma. Even if you take Bhishma pratignya, what did he do with his pratignya? That I'm going to always support the throne of Hastinapura. Is following that pratignya more important or dharma more important? When the throne of Hastinapura was Atatai, fully involved in adharma, what did Bhishma do? His pratignya, he did not even stop them. He did not stop the war. What is the use of such pratignyas? You know, Even in our local contracts, there is a clause to exit. There is an clause in our local contracts. But in these pratignyas of these Asuri and Rakshasi Pravritti people, those who make huge pratignyas, there is no exit clause. They will do whatever they have to do, however they have to do, at whatever cost it comes, they will do that. So mohat grihitva asadgrahyan pravartante ashuchivrataha. They are having these vratas, they are indulging themselves in actions which are unclean actions. Don't we see that in even smallest forms in our day to day life? Is anything possible for us to do properly in our surroundings? Asad grahitva asad grahan. We see that in our day to day life, we see this Asuri Sampatti in a small way or a big way. Krishna is here explaining this in the utmost, the highest, or the most nicha way of he's explaining it is, he's not exaggerating actually. There are different shades of this that is occurring, but we see that in different shades in our everyday life itself. And what are these kamas? What do they do? Dushpuram kama. What do they do? How do they keep this person involved in adharmic action all their lives? That is told in the 11th verse, where Bhagwan says, Chintam aparimeyancha pralayantamupashritaha kamopabhoga parama ye tavaditi nishchitaha. Chintam aparimeyam cha. Here, chinta does not mean worry or chinta. Chinta here means sankalpa. The person who's always deciding and making a sankalpa, aparimeya, endless sankalpas, of fulfilling the endless desires. Of course, there will be chinta also. When you have, a string of endless desires, aparimeya, you know, where there is no question of it is immeasurable. Parimeya, it means, that which is immeasurable number of sankalpas, desires, out of pushed by this kama. Naturally, it will be, chinta will be there. Aparimeya, limitless, endless sankalpas, desires cha. How long do they last? Pralayantam upashritaha. Till pralaya means what? Till the end of this jiva, it goes on. This jiva comes back again and again and again in an asuri sampat form with an asuri sampat predisposition. Till then, till pralaya, this goes on and on. Chintam aparimeya, limitless, endless sankalpas for achieving endless, limitless desires on and on till the very end of one's life and till the very end of this entire universe. This thing goes on. And who are they? Kama Kamopabhoga Uparama, Bhoga Parama, Kama Upabhoga Parama, all the time only interested in upabhoga of kama, all the time making sankalpas. Sankalpas become bigger and bigger, desires become bigger and bigger, more and more unachievable. But then kama upabhoga parama. But then I have to enjoy this kama. Kama bhoga uparama ye tavaditi nishchitaha. That's all this life is. Ye tavad. Nothing more than this. Okay, that is what they think. Then in the 12th verse he says, आशापाशशतैर्बद्धाः कामक्रोधपरायणाः ईहन्ते कामभोगार्थं अन्यायेनार्थसञ्चयान्. With this thing, bound by asha pasha shataihi, hundreds of desires binding you with their pasha, kama krodha parayanaha. Kama and Krodha are the only goals in their life. Desire and anybody or anything which comes in the way of my desire, anger and himsa towards that, that is the only parayana, means only goal, nothing else. Bound by these hundreds of, immeasurable sankalpas and desires. Ihante, cheshtante, they do all the karmas, all the cheshtas are towards fulfilling these desires. Kama bhogartham anyayena artha sanchayan. Adharma comes here. Is it possible for any one of us to fulfill all our desires all the time? But if fulfilling the desire is the only goal, and I don't care about how I fulfill my desire, what do? I resort to adharmic activities. Anyayena artha sanchayan. So, artham here means accumulating whatever I want, getting what I want, and I am willing to do it with anyaya also, with adharma also. I am willing to do this. And how does this adharma, anyaya manifest? That is what he's saying in the 13th verse. इदमध्यमया लब्धम् इदं प्राप्स्ये मनोरथम् इदमस्तीदमपि मे भविष्यति पुनर्धनम् इदमद्य मया लब्धम्. This much I have got now by following this particular lifestyle. Idam prapsyase manoratham, but I'm not going to end here. This also, which is waiting in the line of this aparimeya chinta, sankalpas, this also I am going to fulfill. This manoratham, which is pending, also I am going to fulfill. Idam asti, idam api me bhavishyati. I have this much, but I want more also in future. Idam asti. Idamapi, idamasti, idamapi. Now also I have it, but bhavishyati punardhanam. Dhanam means anything that I want. Dhanam in the form of wealth, or I have this much here. Enough for 7 generations to probably not do anything and then live on that. Still then I want more because I have more desires, more manorathas to finish. What is not enough. I always have a moving target, chasing the moving target. There is never an end. There is never a situation where this person says, Alam, enough. No. This Asuri and Rakshasi Sampat person, more, 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 and I will do anything to get that more, always chasing a moving target. Isn't that why we have all these scams that are going on? This typical Asuri Sampat, lakhs and crores, thousands of crores. Still, I'm not happy with that. I want more and more. Idamasti idamapi me bhavishyati punardanam. I want more about it. And then for that, what am I willing to do? That is what is told in the. These are all the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th are, you know, a string of connected thoughts that this Asuri Sampat person has. So in the 14th verse, what does he say? What is that next thought process? Asau maya hata shatruhu hanishye chaparanapi ishvaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. Asau maya hataha. Look, that fellow came in the way of my achieving my target and I finished him off. I got rid of him. Asau maya hatam. I have gotten rid of so many people. That also, I am very, very arrogantly and with lot of pride, this person says, I have got rid of somebody who came my way. Shatruhu hanishye cha paranapi. Anybody who comes in my way in future also, I am going to get rid of them. Get rid of them how? Either myself or by, making somebody else get rid of them. Anyway, I have already got rid of so many people. I can show you a record of how many people have been destroyed by me. Anybody else, anybody else who has the guts to come in my way, I'm going to hanishye chaparanapi, aparanapi hanishye. I will even kill such people. Ishwaroham aham bhogi. I am Ishvara. I am God. That's what Hiranyakashipu said, it seems. You know, who is this Vishnu? Who is this Narayana? I am God. I have all the power. I can do what I want. I can do what I want. I can get what I want. Worship me as Vishnu. Worship me as God. Why should you worship that somebody who's not even seen? See, I'm here. Pratyaksha. Worship me. I'm Ishvara. Ishwaroham. Such people even start feeling that they have the Aishwaryam of the entire thing. They are the lords of the entire universe. That that is why they are called as dons or lords. That's the word used for such people also. So Ishwaroham aham bhogi. I'm going to a bhogi. Nobody is going to stop me. I'm going to enjoy myself. Bhoga. I deserve this. Bhoga is meant for me. And whoever comes in my way, comes in the way of my bhoga, I will get rid of him. Siddhoham. I am sampannaha. I am powerful enough. I am successful. All these years, I have succeeded in getting what I want, fulfilling all my desires, not out of hard work, not out of intelligence, but only out of adharmic ways, showing off my balam, showing off my connections, getting rid of people when they come in my way. By this, I have been successful. Siddhoham, sampannoham, siddha means sampannaha, balavan sukhi. I have all that power. Nobody can take that power from me. And there are Rakshasas like Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, all these people. What have they done? They have also done lot of worship to Lord. What for? Asking for boons. What kind of boons? Not for Jagat Hita boons. Boons for myself, so that wherever I keep my hand, let the person die. Okay? I should not die outside. I should not die inside. There should be nobody born who is going to kill me. These kind of boons. Ravana asked for boons what? For his own personal enhancement. Hiranyakashipu, all these people, they also, propitiate, worship what for? For their own, for their own adharma. Not that they are going to be successful. We have seen all these in Puranic stories that one day or the other, their own deeds, their own adharma kills them. Their own adharma really puts them down. So, Ishwaroham, aham bhogi, siddhoham, balavan sukhi. It goes further as to how this person thinks. Just introducing the 15th verse. Adhyo bhijana abhija आढ्योऽभिजनवानस्मि कोऽन्योऽस्ति सदृशो मया यक्ष्ये दास्यामि मोदिष्य इत्यज्ञानविमोहिताः. Again, another way in which this person thinks of himself with that ahankara and darpa and damba and the arrogance that he has. Krishna goes on for another one or two verses. So, with this, but today the time is up. So, with this 14th verse, we'll complete today's session and we'll see. Maybe we'll finish, this entire chapter in the next session itself, because here it's talking more about how Asuri Sampatti is detrimental. There is not much of a tattva here, but it is meant for us to look into ourselves and see if we can do something to change the balance and have, Daivi Sampatti more than Asuri Sampatti. नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.